Can you state your name for me, please?
My name is Manuel.
Okay. Do you remember the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.?
Yes, I do.
How old were you around the time of April 4th, 1968?
24.
Okay. And where did you live at the time?
4817 Laurel Avenue.
Okay. The riot started 2 days after assassination. Do you remember how the riot started, if any way?
How did it start? Yes, it started basically with the stores downtown.
Okay. And where were you when it first started? Like, were you home? You said you told me you were home, so.
Yeah, I was home.
Oh, okay. And I know you told me that you or your family wasn't involved, but you don't have any friends or anyone that you know of that was involved in the riots?
No, because I was out on maternity leave then, so I didn't really have any, interaction with, a lot of stuff that was going on.
Oh, okay. And we were talking about the curfews. You were telling me about the curfews that they had downtown.
Yeah. When I was going downtown, I had to have the police stop us to see whether or not I had the right to be down there for something.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of scary because I had never had any contact with policemen. And knowing the background of what was going on, it kind of, made me a little scared or whatever.
That's understandable, because I know when I did some research, they said that about 3,448 people were arrested alone just for curfew violations for being downtown. So it is an interesting time. Did you feel safe during the riots at all?
No.
No.
I didn't feel safe, but by me being off on maternity leave, I did feel safer than I would have.
Oh, okay, that's understandable. Because they said there was a record of 7 deaths during the riots. It's not a lot, but it's still a good amount of number for just Baltimore. Because they said there's like 125 cities that riot between April 6th and April 14th. And I know I was asking you about the National Guard and the police presence. Did that make you feel safe, or did it make you feel a little bit uneasy?
A little bit of both, because when we had the riot with our people, it was like some of our people got hurt, hurting other of our people. That's the part that I didn't like anybody getting hurt, but the fact that we were fighting for something, and then, we were looting against our own folk, and that's what really perturbed me a little bit.
I mean, that's understandable. And were you angry during this time period, like during the riots? Like, I know about the assassination and what was going on. Did any of it make you angry?
Yeah, it did. It made me angry. But I guess because of the murder of Kennedy 5 years before, when this came up, it angered me, because I was already angry because of them killing Kennedy. And then when this came up, it was, even a little more devastating.
That's understandable. I know Dr. King him and Kennedy they did a lot of work for African Americans and during civil rights, so I understand when Kennedy died, it was a little devastating, but when Martin Luther King died, it was even more devastating for civil rights.
Right.
So I understand being angry at both of them, because they were both making steps in the right direction.
Right.
Was the city affected? How was the city afterwards, after the riots? Did it take a while for the city to get back to normal, or was it different atmosphere afterwards from when it was before and after?
Yeah, it definitely was a different atmosphere, and it did take longer time to get things back.
Even after you had your daughter, were the police still out? Like, in this, like a lot of police presence?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's understandable. And, did you know any places that were damaged in the city? Like places you've been to or anything like that, that people, ramshacked or burnt up or anything like that?
Well,
Like your job, for instance, in the city?
yeah, because I worked down at the post office,
Mm-hmm.
and that was, like that inner city. And they had the security around for a while after it had happened, but because I never really shopped in downtown or
Mhm.
whatever, because I usually go out, go out in the outskirts.
And, I mean, how did you feel? I mean, after everything was done, I mean, did you feel like people rioting, was it justified for what people were doing for, the death of Dr. King, or did you feel like some way it wasn't, as far as the the black on black crime that people were doing towards each other, did you feel like it wasn't right? I mean,
Um, I feel that it wasn't right, but I also feel that sometimes, not sometimes, so much, 3/4 of the time, something has to be drastic before anything is done. You have to have a drastic, something that's like eyebrow raising for them to really say, oh, let's do something about this.
and I mean, how do you feel about knowing that um, a lot of schools aren't teaching children about this? Because, like we spoke over the phone, I told you I never heard about the Baltimore riots after the King's assassination.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people, I didn't know about it till I took an African American history class. How do you feel about that?
Well, from my standpoint, when I was in school, they never talked about slavery, they never talked about any of that. So in my, age group, we were used to it. They never talked about anything positive about the blacks. And I think what gets me a little irate today is that these kids don't understand what our forefathers went through, and they're really messing up.
Mm-hmm.
In a simple way of saying it, they're messing up what our forefathers have done.
What about the city kids, like Baltimore City in general? Has it progressed since what happened? I mean, if you ride through the neighborhoods and through the city, there's a lot of boarded up places. The places that were damaged, did it ever get back to where it was beforehand, or it was just like it's just been that way now?
It did get back to, it got better, okay, but now I'm seeing with all the boarded up houses,
Mm-hmm.
it's going back to really wherein now people just basically a lot of them are being thrown out all over now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not centralized in the city. Because when I, excuse me, when I grew up, we all lived in a certain area. We
Mm-hmm.
couldn't go, but a certain area. And now I'm seeing that, like I said, the city is full of empty houses, and people are just flocking out other places and all. And to be honest with you, the ones that a lot of them that I see in the city are up to no good. The young folks,
Mm-hmm.
and I realize they're suffering with lack of education, no jobs, and it's really, it's really heartbreaking. It really is.
I mean, did you have anything else you wanted to say? As far as not just about the riots, just in general about like African American history, about how you feel. Besides, how you're saying about the today's children. I mean, how do you feel that How do you feel like how far we've gone since Dr. King's died? Are we taking the right steps in the right direction as far as like having an African American president? Or do you feel like we're still one step forward, but we're always being pushed back too?
I think it's fantastic that we do have a black as president, because when when I came up, we were always taught, or from my mother and my grandmother, that we had to be better. And when I got older, and I could look back on what was, what is then, and then now I'm able to see, you know, things in the future. We're really blessed in this country, and we've come a long way, the blacks, but we have a lot of kids, like I said, that are really not taking the education. You know, I don't know what it is that they have against the system when they don't want to take free education, because I know so many people, Africans, they aren't able to have education. And it's almost like today they're throwing it away. You know, instead of trying to excel, they want to be with their peers. You know, it's peer pressure and all. And I don't know. I guess maybe I got a thing against young folks, and how, I'm not talking about all. I'm just talking about some. Yeah. And I know that in the inner city, we have been kept down. We pay more for everything. Car insurance, water, because I'm not fighting with the water company now. You know, they charge me, but they tend to charge the inner city, charge us more, and we're pressed more with just, I mean, even in the stores, when you go to the stores, they don't have the quality of foods and all that they have in the outskirts. That's why I always went out to get my food, and you know, and that hurts me. But I have heard that they said that there's a lot of theft in the city, in the stores and all, and that's the excuse I was given. You know, but we've come a long ways, but our young folks are not grabbing onto what they have. You know, because when I came up, I couldn't go into a head company, Hochul Homes. I couldn't go into any of those stores. And my mother, who was very wise, she had a gentleman that, my grandfather had a barber shop, and she had she wrote a letter saying what she wanted for us, you know, our clothes that we wanted, because they had the better clothes. And so she would send him down, and he posed as her butler. And he called, the salesperson called my mom, and she told her what she wanted from me. And I may not have been able to go in the store and put on little Lord Fauntleroy attire like some of the whites did, but I was able to have what they had, you know. And
may not be the same way they got it, but
right. But I had the same thing. Yeah,
that's understandable. And I know one last question I want to ask. You know, they put the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in D.C. And I know that a lot of people said it took a while to get there, between the time that he died and, you know, where it's at now. Do you feel like it's, I don't want to say necessary, do you think it's long overdue for his memorial? You know, they have one for Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and, you know, being how much he paved ways for a lot of people, and through civil rights. Do you think it's long overdue for them putting it there?
Yeah, I think it should have been way a long time ago. Yes, because he has made, between Kennedy and him, they have made a difference in what has happened to us. And I know I got my job mainly because of the work that he had done. Because I know at the post office they opened up the doors for more blacks at that time. Because when let's see, I started there in 66. And when I went there, a lot of the guys were like servicemen. They put them in there. And then they were saying that in the section that I worked in, it was really white. And then I said, well, there weren't any white at that time in my section, maybe one or two. I said, well, where are they? So what they did, they moved them up into the tower, which is the offices, and then they brought us in. So I used to always say we worked on a rock pile. And then, but you know, I am very thankful that I was able to be at the time that I was, to be able to get a job, you know, where I did. Because now the post office is cutting back and cutting out, and you know, so you know, I'm very grateful for what Martin Luther King and Kennedy have done for us.
And did you have anything else you wanted to say or anything?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.